Welcome to the I Told You podcast. I'm J. Marcelo Vaquero Alvarez, and this is not the podcast for snowflakes. So if you happen to be naive, this is going to hurt your feelings. But that is actually a good thing for you if you happen to be naive, because understanding the malfunction is the first step in order for you to fix it. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. And yes, today's topic is Trump's actions helped adversarial goals. That is not a question, that is a statement. And if you haven't realized it, then, you're extremely naive. And this episode hopefully is going to finally snap your head out of your ass. Okay, so another big trigger warning, as it is tradition now with this podcast. And the reason is because we have been talking on this entire season 2 about the insider threats. And that would likely hurt your feelings, and especially if you are either worshiping an insider threat, or if you just happen to realize today, whenever you listen to this, that you are indeed an insider threat. So listen to what we are going to be talking about. Okay, so a quick recap in case you don't remember what an insider threat is. Insider threats, they come in one of two categories. Either you are a witting or an unwitting insider threat. And an insider threat is somebody who is betraying their own team. A witting insider threat, they do that so knowingly that they're doing it. And the latter is somebody who's too fucking stupid to realize that they are sabotaging their team. Okay, so that is bringing the baseline here. And the first thing that you need to remember, if the event that you actually realize that you have indeed become an insider threat, is that traps are designed to snare you with ease. All right. So get mad all you want, not at me, okay? Because I am actually telling you what is going on. But instead, get mad at whoever is actually redacting the truth against you, okay? Because they want you stuck in that echo chamber. They don't want you to really realize what's actually going on. So I'm going to be telling you, not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. And guess what? Apparently, very, very few people, particularly the mainstream media, they're not telling you this, okay? So listen up, because nobody's going to help you here. And that is something that also you need to understand, okay? So for better or for worse, like or dislike Kamala Harris, she invited Americans to see Trump's rallies firsthand and to actually pay attention to the shit that he was saying, all right? Not just getting to this group mentality, because, I know a lot of people, they just go over there and they're just listening. They're not really understanding what is actually being told to them. Just kind of like when people, they go into a game and they're just like watching the thing, but not really paying attention. Same thing. Okay, so she actually told people, hey, pay attention to what is he actually doing, okay, and what he actually saying, and what are the policies and how that actually really affects you, and if the math actually adds up, so you can work with independent sources to understand if that is true or not. And some people actually did take on that, and they did go, and some of the MAGA who started listening and understanding the shit that was coming out of Trump, they had an eye-opening epiphany for them. And a lot of them, they became ex-MAGA. And you can actually Google that all over the place, and you're going to find out why is it that they actually say, well, that actually start making sense. Those fucking libs and those fucking rhinos and all those non-MAGA and all whoever, that Trump didn't like. Somehow, they were actually not as off the base as they were leading to believe, or in the echo chamber was leading them to believe, all right? So let me give you a parallel so you can understand how this actually works, okay? So if you have heard about a lot of atheists, a lot of them, they were theists before, meaning that they actually subscribed to a religion and they really were very involved and they wanted to believe about that. And particularly for some of those that are from the Christian type of religion, or they actually use the Bible, a lot of them, they're going to be telling you that the way that they actually deconverted from the religion is when they actually read the Bible from cover to cover, not just the cherry-picked points that the congregation was giving them, actually like objectively reading it from cover to cover and seeing it in an objective manner, not just the way that, okay, they make you feel good about whatever the scriptures are, so because there's a lot of that. Yeah, there is a lot of that. But there's some other stuff that is not as good. And if you haven't read it, you probably should, okay? So the problem is that then the best way to create an atheist is by letting them read the Bible from cover to cover. And in case you didn't actually realize, it was illegal to read the Bible or to even own a Bible unless you were a part of the cleric back in a few really a few centuries ago, but it's not even that far off, depending where you are in the world. So yeah, for you to be able to read the own Bible, it's very different. And of course, there's certain things that are not necessarily the same if you read it from one language to the other. I know, because I speak 5 languages and I've read it in different languages, and it does not really match. And even in the same language, there's also different versions. Okay, so you might want to give yourself that understanding before you start taking something blindly, as far as that. Okay. Now, with that, I'm not actually trying to tell you to become an atheist, okay? But what I do want you to realize is that there is a lot of political sway when it comes from the pulpit, when it comes to a congregation, when it comes from any type of person who has a prominent position that is wearing a religious stripe to tell you what is right or what is not right. And a lot of people, of course, are going to believe them from that. And even though that is actually technically illegal in the USA, because actually we are supposed to have that separation between church and state. And before you said, well, it's a Christian nation, which denomination? Okay, there's like several thousand denominations. Okay, it's yours? Okay. So let's listen a little bit, so you understand how the political situation gets intertwined. And this is my position. If you push political stuff from the pulpit towards your congregation, all right, cool, do it. All right, yeah, do it. But also pay your fucking taxes, all right? Because the church is exempt from taxes. Well, they have a tax exemption under the guise that they're not supposed to be pushing political stuff through the pulpit. That is the deal. So if you want to push political stuff, do it, but pay your taxes, all right? And that is not just for Christian religions. There's for any freaking religion out there. So if you want to start pushing political stuff, do it, but pay the taxes, because right now they're not paying the taxes, all right? So understand that before. Now, let's do this little thought experiment, okay? Because this is actually going to be helping you understand a little bit, how that actually works, particularly if you're a person of faith. Because all this topic that I'm going to be talking about, it has to have a certain catalyst, okay? So I need you, for a second. Think about this, all right? So think about a religion, whichever one that you find the most outrageous out there, not yours, okay? Whatever is out there, okay? There's 4,000 plus religions. You choose that, okay? It's up to you, okay? Whichever you realize that if they were blindly convinced of whatever allegory that they profess, that they are going to be latching into that belief no matter what the consequences, okay? So if any person has already been convinced that any of those scriptures are real, and they have that blind faith on believing whatever that is, then it is not a bridge too far for them to start believing that an emissary from that faith is the person the congregation wants them to support. Okay, that they are actually going to be pushing that person or that cult of personality or whatever doctrine that is the correct thing, because it actually comes from that congregation. Okay, so realize that. You choose the religion, okay? Whichever one that you don't subscribe to, okay? And for that, yeah, there are 4,000 plus religions and deities that have been worshipped over the thousand of denominations additional to all those religions, okay? So I want you to think about this, okay? What makes you think that yours is the correct one? What makes you think that your religion from all those is the correct one? All right. So this is the thought experiment. Did that get you mad? Did I get you mad? Talking about your religion, just like putting you in the spot. If it did, well, congratulations. You're a prime example of how religious bias manipulation can actually affect you. Yeah, understand? Because you were not mad about talking shit about any other religion at that point. You thought, okay, they're crap or they're crazy or whatever, I'll respect it, but to each their own, whatever, this is not my thing, blah, 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 they're crazy, it's cookie, whatever stuff. But when I pointed yours and it hit your nerve, then you do have a proclivity for manipulation under a religious dogma. If you didn't realize it before, okay, you're welcome. Now you understand it, okay? So I'm trying to help you break free from that, okay? You can keep your religion, whatever you want, as long as you're a good person. Once you start imposing that on somebody else, that is a different problem, okay? America is about you believe or disbelieve whatever you want. Forcing somebody to believe the same shit that you do, that is different, all right? So that's first thing, okay? You have to understand, have you been a victim of political manipulation through a religious bias, okay? So if you have been, continue paying attention, okay? Because it gets even more insidious than that, because they are latching into those virtues if you find faith to be a virtue, all right? So realize that 99.99999% of MAGA likely they have some religious bias of any sort. Mostly some of the Christian Protestant from one of the several thousand denominations. Okay, but this is the thing. Okay, not all congregations are bad out there. Okay, and some are actually really nice people. Okay, and they want to do something, whatever is good. However, you also have to realize that a lot of congregations they happen to be very predatory. They happen to be swindlers. They happen, to not be all in the up and up. Okay, there's a lot of swindlers that they take that religious feeling and devotion and fervor into their own coffers to make themselves rich, while you're giving everything that you ever wanted to give. It doesn't matter. What the religion is. Okay, it happens in Christianity, certainly, definitely, but it also happens with a lot of different cults, around that. Okay, so it's that is another reason why a lot of people sometimes they when they don't realize this thing that I'm just telling you right now, they have a tendency to jump from one denomination to another, from one church to another, and then the cycle just continues to be like that. Okay, much as like if you are in a bad relationship and you still don't have a good understanding about who you are, and you have low self-esteem, and you jump from one to another one, then you get into one toxic relationship, into another toxic relationship, and the cycle continues. Okay, it's because you haven't actually fixed the underlying problem. Okay, so that's something that you need to understand, right? And before I move on with that, remember that if you can hold any religion under any scrutiny, any religion that you don't subscribe to, they have the right to do something to yours. Okay, that is the reality. If you can scrutinize anybody else's faith or lack thereof, they have the same right to do the same thing to you. Okay, and understand that, as I say, a lot of atheists, they used to be highly religious people, and what got them out was being objective and trying to understand. Okay, does the math uh, it's actually adding up into that doctrine or not? All right, so realize that. All right, so I told you before, the most insidious part is that a propagandist is actually going to be latching to your virtues and turning them into this exploitative bias. Okay, so that is how they get blind to not want to listen to anybody else, because all those hidden leftists or anybody else, that is on the other side, and forgetting also, by the way, on the right, that a lot of people who happen to be on the left, they're probably just as religious as they are. And actually, yeah, that is true. There's a lot of people who are religious regardless of political denomination. So yeah, surprise, yeah. So it's not that every lefty is an atheist, because that is not true. There's a lot of people who are highly, highly religious from any political part of the spectrum. Okay, so just understand this. Okay, so who else do you think has actually realized this? Well, all the adversarial nations, they have already realized that. So that's why they want to bump the USA away from the number one spot in the world. Because right now, believing on whatever you want or not believing, that is a right that you have. But in all these other places, either you don't have that right, or you have to be just subscribing to one particular faith. And if you don't, then you have another problem. Okay, so let me give you another example. Okay, in a lot of different Muslim countries, before it starts, getting a different foothold. If you used to be a Christian, for instance, you would have to pay a tax. Okay, you still could be professing your own religion, but you have to pay, in order for you to be able to believe whatever it is that you wanted to believe under that doctrine. So understand, okay, how that actually works, because it actually changes. In Russia, for example, is the Christian Orthodox religion. Okay, that's the one that it became the one and accepted religion for everybody else. If you do anything else, do you think that they're as tolerant if you are a Mormon, or if you are a Jehovah Witness, or if you are a Baptist, or you are Pentecostal, or whatever other things? No, that's not happening. Okay, so understand, okay, how it actually starts getting the normalization, how it actually starts moving. So funny thing, actually a secular country gives you the freedom to be who you want to be. Understand that a secular country gives you the freedom to be who you want to be, even if you want to subscribe to religion or not religion at all. Okay, and I'm telling you, I'm using this religion thing because a lot of the other things that you actually get to see that is happening, it starts from that. They're latching into a virtue and turning them into a vulnerability. And that vulnerability, because it's part of you, it's going to be very hard for you to understand. And the other thing, that you're actually going to be seeing is that a lot of these faiths, they're going to be trapping themselves in the same American flag, and they're going to be using as a sacrosanct religion, and that is, like for a denomination maybe that you follow, okay? But from the many thousands of people that they have different denominations, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be giving you the full story. just enough to see what resonates with you. Okay, that way it becomes part of your identity. Yeah, when they say, okay, a Christian nation, they don't say which denomination. They say, okay, let's do all Jehovah Witnesses. They don't say, let's do all Pentecostal, or they don't say the Pentecostal, the ones that they like to dance or the ones that they want to handle snakes, okay? They don't tell you which one. They're just using that magic word, Christianity, as a monolith, which is not a monolith. It's actually, sorry, if you're a Christian, okay, you have to realize there's several thousand denominations, and each one of those are very small minorities, because that's why there's so many denominations. They do not agree in many different ways, and in a lot of times they used to kill each other for the differences in the scripture that they were actually seeing. So you have to understand, okay, if it is a visceral response, if everything that I'm telling you, and I'm kind of like probing it on purpose, is for you to realize that if that is bothering you, is actually pushing you out of your comfort zone, somebody has been manipulating you through that, even if you didn't realize it. I'm just being a little bit more on the nose so you can actually see it, so it's a little bit more explosive, so you really understand what's going on. But the reality is that this is continuing to happening, and if you're already fighting with your family and with your friends and with your children and anything else because of that, yes, you have been manipulated, and somebody's all going to be able to take that energy that you have against them, that you are super mad about them, or that you feel vindicated for being mad at them, against you, and that of course is going to be moving to the political realm. That's why there's supposed to be a separation of church and state. Okay, hopefully you're catching up with this. Okay, so understand, this is a multi-layer game against you. Okay, it's a multi-layer game against you. Okay, so a lot of those layers you're not actually going to be able to see them. Okay, so taking over your life, that is the end state. And by taking over your life, it also starts by thinking about how taking over your thoughts, even your own thought process. So you think that everything else is a sin, or you don't actually want to expand your mind. That is part of that. Is part of this control. Okay, that happens. Not every faith is like that. Some they want to actually expand your mind. Others they want to control your mind. All right. So understand how that actually works. All right. So, but taking over your life, it is the end state. But how they do it is by enticing you to give that willfully, because they are going to be convincing you that you are doing the morally superior thing, that you're morally superior against a bunch of whomever you're instructed to hate or dislike or be mad from now on. All right. So for the geopolitical situation, particularly in the domestic area, starting from that point, when Americans fight, only the adversarial forces win. They already achieved that with MAGA, okay? So in the USA, okay? So MAGA versus non-MAGA, yeah, they can't stand each other. They don't even talk. They even at the family level, or divorces, or they don't talk in Thanksgiving, or friends that they just don't. They were besties forever until Trump, whatever, that already happened. That already happened, all right? So that communication breakdown, that already worked. So that begs the question, what is it going to be the next step? And the next step is, of course, they already broke the USA from the inside out. That happened, is to isolate the USA from the world stage. How? Well, much like a cult, that first starts separating you from your friends and family, by either yanking you outright from that, or by creating some sort of resentment that is going to be resulting in the same eventually. So something like that, that's what's going to happen. Okay, so case in point, like we have in the geopolitical level. Trump fighting with Canada and Mexico over the tariffs, even though they are really our closest allies and our neighbors, and we actually have a good relationship with them, and start trying to point to certain things that, yeah, there is room for improvement, but exacerbating them to a point that it actually creates so we cannot reconciliate those differences, or it actually makes it too explosive, or makes it a lot harder to fix, okay? So you have to understand, that is not something that necessarily comes from Trump's mind. That is actually something that already was doctrinally written by adversarial nations that they want us to do decades ago. The problem is that a lot of people, they read that, because obviously they're not going to put it in English, okay? But it exists, there's actually videos explaining how they actually wanted to do that. They call the uses the empire, so they want the empire to crumble. And how you crumble an empire? From the inside out, not from the outside in, all right? That's something that hopefully you've been hearing from the previous episodes, but I go in detail so you understand how that works, okay? So again, at the greater geopolitical level, break those bilateral agreements with those closest allies, and that is also going to be including NATO. And I made a whole video about NATO so you can actually understand, why is that important, okay? With the exception of Hungary. Hungary, it is a NATO country, but they actually were a proof of concept, and they have Orban, who is a very right-wing person who has already doing a lot of stuff that they want to actually put here in the USA. And if you didn't realize that, well, in MAGA, they're going to say that he's awesome and blah, blah, blah. Why do you think is that? Okay. Well, many other countries are actually speaking overtly about that. Hey, that is concerning, and that is going to be creating perhaps other levels of dissonance that is going to be occurring at the geopolitical level. Now, the thing is, what I told you, the geopolitical level is highly complex. It has a lot of different layers and it's going to be mind bending for a lot of people. And a lot of people would rather just watch anything else or suck their thumb instead of actually paying attention to that because it is complex, because it has a lot of dimension. And because of that, it is very easy for somebody who wants to manipulate you that say, okay, yeah, don't even pay attention to that. Just pay attention to something else. And that's why people stop paying attention to whatever is important and end up voting against their own best interest. Okay. But the problem is that also the rest of the world leaders who are making sense of all this craziness that I'm telling you, they do understand at least to a point. They are already starting to make fun of the USA, in particular making fun of Trump and even infantilizing him, for like stupid like handshakes, he does, and with his bravado and the way, that he acts. Yeah, and they're speaking about those concerns on how the USA is actually causing up to some other hostile regimes, not just to the USA, but to the rest of these other ally countries. So whenever you start seeing that, the USA itself, it starts becoming, okay, we shouldn't be the world leader because apparently you have fallen into the same Kool-Aid as with these other authoritarian regimes, and now they want to naturally start leaving the USA. And what does that do? Well, first of all, it pull us away from being the number one spot in the nation, and that opens also the ability for somebody else who's been planning on throwing us away to take our place. So that is what's happening. Okay, so and that includes, of course, Russia. And in case you say, yeah, it's super swell that Russia actually wants to do that. Yeah, remember, Russia already has officially said that they would nuke the USA on first strike if they feel unhappy for whatever reason. Okay, so the definition of what would make them happy is very fluid. Okay, so if you think that that is well, yeah, that is somebody who has actually wanted to nuke you and make this entire country into into a vapor cloud of radioactive fallout. Okay, so yeah, understand what you actually are voting for, because apparently Trump does not seem to stand up to him. As a matter of fact, somehow Trump seems to be incredibly subordinate to Putin. So is he not? All right. So because I see a lot of the people, particularly MAGA, that start scoffing and start, saying like, yeah, no, they don't want to believe it. I know you don't want to believe it, yeah, because you love all glory, like our flag, you want to believe that you didn't want taken for a ride. Well, you, Mr. MAGA, Miss MAGA, tell me, what is Putin's nickname given by Trump? What nickname did Trump give Putin? He doesn't have one. No, because he respects him too much. Yes, he gives nicknames, derogatory nicknames to anybody, being our allies or being our friends or being our politicians or whoever fucking pisses him off, because he has no problem speaking against anybody else and being incredibly nasty with them, but no Putin. That's always off limits. You might want to start, thinking about that, and yes, and I really need you to wrap your head around that, because I keep repeating that in several of the episodes, because I really need you to understand that, okay? Is Trump subordinate to Putin? Ask yourself the question, because if he is indeed, then all the shit that is happening, it connects automatically. Yes, all the craziness that is happening, all the mental gymnastics, all the fights and all the shit over there, bam, automatically goes underneath the same narrative, because either does Trump understand that he's doing that, or he doesn't understand that he's not doing it, but he's still doing it. That's the problem. Okay, it's happening regardless. So either he's a witting insider threat or he's an unwitting insider threat. Neither one of them are correct. Okay, so start chewing on that for a little bit in your mind as we continue talking about that. Okay, because if you think that Trump is not selling the USA, then you have to be extremely naive by now. Okay, so yeah, he has made tons of money with his business that they were supposed to be on a blind trust or while he was president on his first term. So in the first term, okay, whenever you have a big office, you have to stop doing business, okay, with the U.S. government or anything else. Okay, you're not supposed to be doing that. Why? because it's a conflict of interest. Because now you're putting your placement and access as a way to essentially entice somebody else, to say, okay, I'm for sale, like, and maybe start pandering some favors, even if that's not what you want to do and that's not the intention. It still is happening. Okay, so and Trump, he does different type of other swindles that it had actually happened in other places, and he did that before. Like, for example, it panders to the most naive segment of his audience. Example, he said he donates his presidential salary. So, okay, if you believe that ploy, you have to be the stupidest person fucking alive, okay? Because the presidential, okay, so let's break down this thing, okay, so you understand, okay? Let me break it Barney style, okay, so you understand. The presidential salary is $400,000 a year, okay? So that is about $1 million, $1 million and 600,000. Okay, $1,600,000. That's essentially how much he's supposed to be getting. Okay, as a salary from that. Well, guess what? That is just not even a drop in the bucket of how much he actually had the taxpayers actually foot the bill for him. All right, for all kinds of other shit that he was doing. All right, so let's break it down. Okay, I could go 4 hours for that, but let me give you one interesting example. Okay, so playing golf alone, Trump spent during his first presidency 428 days out of the White House in his properties, either playing golf or doing whatever the fuck he was actually doing there. So that is nearly 1/3 of his presidency. He was on his properties instead of on the White House, where he's supposed to be fucking working, okay? Or going abroad to do whatever, international things. So the most part of essentially his presidency, he was essentially fucking playing golf. But remember what was his promise? Oh, I'm not going to play golf, not even one time, while I'm going to be president on the, before 2016. Yeah, how does that happen? Okay, that's a demonstrable lie. You can actually see that. Okay, so it gets a little bit more interesting. Okay, so for those 428 days, just so you have an idea. Okay, so in average, it costs Air Force One for 1 hour of flight. Okay, for 1 hour of flight for Air Force One, it costs about $177,000. Okay, so just shy of $200,000 per flight hour. Think about that. Okay, so that means that Trump costed the taxpayers his entire 4-year term salary in about 9 flights. That 9 flight hours, not even 9 full flights. Okay, some flights are more than an hour. Okay, so essentially that's a few round trips from the 428 days that he was actually coming back and forth. From all these times that he was actually gone. So make the fucking math. How many fucking millions, billions of actual dollars is actually not that costing to the U.S. government? So giving this fucking $400,000, yeah, that's fucking nothing. Yeah, I understand. Okay, if you're the fucking naive, okay, you really need to. You probably are falling for more fucking swindles, so understand, okay, how that happens, okay, and yeah, that does not include all the business deals that he was making while he was in office, and all the outrageous prices that he was charging for people staying on his hotels, to include the Secret Service, that they were charged actually a higher rate whenever they were at the Trump properties. All right, so where do you think all that fucking money is going? Well, really, you need to understand that. But the other thing, okay, even if that was not happening, it's just understanding that he is definitely conning you. He has a history of being conning people. He was actually prosecuted, and he was actually found liable for fraud for the Trump for the Trump organization in a civil suit. Okay, so that happened. He owes $500 million of people he actually was swindling. Okay, so that happened. Okay, same thing, with Trump University. Same thing with a whole bunch of these other things that went under. Okay, that he's no stranger to that. And that is not the only thing. When he was convicted in 34 counts, that's for falsification of business records. Okay, even though you haven't seen the sentencing, because he keeps just like finding loopholes and pushing the shit to the right. That is something that you need to really understand, because even if you don't believe it, at least you need to read the indictment. You need to read why there was a grand jury, why there were like all these charges filed, what is the actual story, and see it objectively. And if you like Trump, then don't think that is Trump, think that is somebody else, and see, okay, would that be actually fine? No, you would say like, no, that's fucking crazy, unless you're a fucking tool or unless you're fucking stupid, all right? So Understand, okay? Sometimes we want to make those mental gymnastics because we like somebody, okay? Because we really love them, okay? It's kind of like if you have your mom and figure out, that she's like fucking stealing from you. You might not want to believe it, but if that's happening, well, that shit's happening, okay? So think about that, right? So yeah, so he's been conning you for a while as well. Okay, so if you're MAGA, you're the cash cow already. Okay, so nowhere in the fucking history you get to see a president selling you fucking NFTs and watches and guitars and fragrances and shoes and all other kinds of branded trinkets. Who the fuck does that? Okay, and who buys that? Only MAGA. Only MAGA fucking buys those fucking things. Okay, if they're within a certain price point. But if you have a lot more money, then what are you really buying for that? Placement and access. All right. Yeah, placement and access. Okay. So, and by the way, so you have to understand, that if somebody's actually putting some shit, like on his pocket, like putting like all this weird brand like that, he's not really putting America first. He's putting himself first, and he's actually putting in fucking block letters. Okay. So you have to really start thinking as though it's not Trump, but that somebody else doing the shit. Okay, if somebody else doing the shit, and you would actually go like, yeah, that's fucking weird. Yeah, it is not just fucking weird. It's happening. Okay. And by the way, most of those products can be traced to some dubious places or like some shell companies somewhere like in the fucking middle of nowhere, or they have some other unusual business models that they happen just to mirror a lot of the other swindler things that are conning people across America and across the world. Okay, so think about this. What if Biden was doing the same shit? Like right now, like selling you shoes and selling you NFTs or selling you fucking guitars, with his fucking face or like with his slogans there, like and trading cars and like all that shit. What would you think? It's like the fuck, it's like damn, that's fucking tacky as shit, man. Who the fuck does that? For the president, the president has to be doing that shit. Okay, so understand that, okay? But Trump's problematic decisions go a lot deeper than that, okay? So even in Canada, who actually has like the so-called like maple MAGA, type folks, that they're like on the hard right side of Canada, they're already speaking up against Trump. Why is that? Because Trump already went and doubling down, insulting Trudeau, calling him the governor, the 51st state of the USA, and yeah, I understand Trudeau. He's the prime minister, for Canada. So that's that's the head state. So yeah, Canadians, they happen to also be pretty divided on the political discourse, and like MAGA, they have these conservatives and that they dislike Trudeau and they have like all this shit, but they're still proud Canadians, as they should be. I mean, it is okay, to have people with different points of view, because a debate is not about who wins, but about how can we actually feel those blind spots that we have. Okay, so that's what we have. Okay, so they are actually proud to be Canadians, and they might not like Trudeau, but they like Canada, and they're speaking out to the Trumps. They're like, okay, what the fuck, man? that is not cool. You saying that you want to take over Canada, and then you're putting all the stuff, making it a lot harder for all of us. What the fuck? Okay, so they're actually speaking up, even the conservatives in Canada. But you need to wake up, okay, because it is about making the USA fighting another friendly country to break alliances. That is the end state, okay? They want to isolate us. Remember, I was telling you a little while ago, and then I'll give you a little more context. Okay, that's what it is, okay? They want to break the USA from these alliances, from these countries that are close to us. First, the ones that are actually really geographically closer to us, because if they can actually isolate us, we only have two countries on either side of us, okay? We have Canada to the north, and we have Mexico to the south, okay? Those are the two closest countries, unless you have to cross a body of water, okay? Otherwise, you have the Atlantic and Pacific in either side of the country. If you get isolated geographically first, then it's very easy to get you isolated in other ways, all right? So you need to be thinking in those many different levels. But the problem is a funny thing, you're going to find this kind of interesting. A lot of MAGA people, and I know because I actually tried that, they cannot point in a blank map where the USA is. Like literally, show them a world map that has like no labels. They cannot point where the freaking USA is. Like some people, they think that it's somewhere in Europe. Some people think that somewhere in Africa. Like they just point it out somewhere. Have like no fucking idea. So yeah, just so you know, that happens. Okay. So if you are dumb enough not to understand that basic geography, then yeah, everything else is going to be Hello, Harry, for you. And guess what? Actually, MAGA wants to get rid of the Department of Education. Yeah, so they have a lot more fucking naive motherfuckers like that. Ha ha. Yeah, hopefully you get over there. Okay. But the tariffs, as we mentioned, they will hurt the USA and the other countries that he's targeting with that. But that is also because of the retaliation that is going to be occurring. So it's not that you just put tariffs and then you try to fuck the other person up. They're going to say, yeah, fuck you, fuck me. I'm going to fuck you up the other way. Okay. So we both are going to go into a fight. And many northern states, particularly a lot of red states, they actually depend on Canada's energy. And Canada now is saying, yeah, we're going to be cutting your energy, motherfuckers. And if you wanted to have that, you're going to be making it hard. Okay, painful for us, we'll make it painful for you, especially in the dead of winter. Okay, what do you do when you don't have fucking energy in the dead of winter? You fucking freeze. You get this. Okay, they're trying to hopefully give you a message, say, well, maybe you're going to fucking start thinking about what's going on, and maybe if you're MAGA, you're going to start talking to Trump, say like, hey, yeah, Mr. Trump, I did not vote to be fucking frozen here because you say drill, baby, drill. But guess what? We were already drilling more than fucking any time in our fucking history. We have the most energy production that we actually been sending to other countries. What you might not understand is that oil is not actually made the same way. All right. So there's different types of oil. Okay, I'm not going to be getting too much into that, but that means that the way that you actually refine different type of oil is going to be different. Okay, because there's some crap type of oil and there's other less crap type of oil. Okay, so how you actually pull it out from the from outside and how you put it there is going to be different. Okay, so I'm going to give you like a very different parallel example. Okay, so for you to understand. Okay, so let's say if your car actually runs on gasoline, you put fucking kerosene or you fucking put diesel in a gasoline run car, it's gonna fucking get fucked. Okay, same thing. Okay, but in a different in a different level. Okay, so you understand. Okay, how you actually make the derivatives from oil, it's very different. Okay, from that energy. So there are a lot of different other fucking layers that you don't fucking understand, Mr. MAGA, Miss MAGA, okay? But some of us fucking understand, and we're trying to fucking tell you. So you can now tell that to Mr. Trump. Hey, why are you fucking us in the ass with this? Because apparently you don't understand the shit either, Mr. Trump, okay? So understand, okay? Because that is that even if you're on the South, you still depend on everything else that happens all over the USA because we are interconnected, and everything else that happens around the world because we are interconnected, because we are in a global economy, and the USA happens to be part of the same motherfucking planet, okay? And this planet, by the way, is the only fucking planet that actually can harbor life. Unless, Musk, he thinks that he can actually terraform Mars and have maybe have some shit, happen in Total Recall, from the 80s where Arnold Schwarzenegger, he probably thinks, that's how it fucking works. That's not how it works, okay? But, right now, this is the only fucking planet that we have, and we are interconnected. So we need to understand how our relationship with the rest of the world actually work, okay? All right, so whenever you make a moron and believe that they are in charge, then it is very easy for you to make them believe that they have fallen into this cult of personality. And there's a reason why every authoritarian is going to be a bombastic idiot, okay? They have a proclivity from being on the wrong side of every wedge issue imaginable. So that is what you get to see, not just in MAGA, but you get to see that in a whole bunch of other people, that happen to be around the world. They don't believe about anything that it's a conspiracy theory, like about the moon landing, or they're not going to be believing about evolution, or they're not going to be believing about the world being round, like all these other things. They're normally going to be on the wrong side of the issue. So if you have fallen for Trump's cult of personality, then you need to ask yourself, okay? So let me ask you this. Have you already read Project 2025? Yeah, of course you didn't. So why is that? Well, because Trump said that he didn't read it. So, yeah, likely you didn't feel compelled to read it because, you're just going to be taking his word for it because why should you be doing something, okay? But you have to remember, okay, the cult of personality is going to be expanding to the followers, okay? And that's what it creates cognitive dissonance because the followers are actually going to be feeling personally attacked every time that somebody's actually pointing their faults, because they're pointing out that the other person is the adversarial forces, okay, that they are supposed to be angry from now on. And they just so happen to be whoever this authoritarian wannabe happens to be angry. Their enemies now are your enemies. Even if they were your friends, if they were being your parents, or if they would be somebody that raised you and they love you and that they've always taken care of you, that doesn't matter to them. Okay, that is how it's actually starting up to taking over the foothold. Okay, so are you a useful fool yourself? And if you are MAGA, then I'm sorry to tell you, yes, you are, because you voted for somebody who happens to be subordinate to a foreign power. Even if you don't realize it or he doesn't realize it, that did happen, okay? And if you're still in the MAGA bubble, then and you haven't realized it either, well, you need to really start understanding how this is affecting you. If you believe it or and don't believe it, that is irrelevant in the end, because it is still going to be affecting you regardless of whether you believe it or not. And the fact is that there are like thousands of indicators that they show that there's this division around the world, and the way that the USA is divided is not something unlike everything else that is going on in many other countries around the world. Okay, and that's why we have a lot of other allies that are really wary that Trump is actually going to be coming into office, because whenever he actually comes here, his first presidential term was not good. I know a lot of you guys, think, oh yeah, it was amazing, it was great, because that's what Fox News was telling me, that's what OAN was telling me, that's what Breitbart was telling me, because those are the only things I was actually looking at. But in the meantime, the reality was very different. But the USA is a very large country, and when you have a very large country, some of the places that are actually getting fucked are not actually being understood what actually happens in somebody else that is actually not getting fucked. Okay, so let me give you like a quick illustrative example. Okay, so let's say that you live in a complex building. Okay, and in one of those apartments, it could be even in your same floor, somebody's beating up their spouse. You might not know it, because in your apartment everything is nice and cozy, and since the doors are closed, somebody's suffering, but you just don't know any better. So that happens. Okay, that is kind of how it happens, and you might not actually see it until it actually happens to you, or you start really getting a first level knowledge of that. And even sometimes, even if you become aware, okay, and say like, okay, it seems that they're actually beating up the spouse, but it's not my problem. Oh yeah, hopefully, that they get to do that. That's the problem. It's their life. Until now, this dude comes over and start fucking beating you up, because now it has normalized that beating up other people is just fine. Hmm? Understand? It's gonna come up regardless of whether you understand it or not. And yeah, this is none of this is normal. Okay, so and that's what makes it so dangerous, because it also affects you. Okay, and that's what we're trying to impress on you. Okay, chances are that people who actually do a living on understanding how all the geopoliticals and all this stuff actually works, they they want you to understand and to listen to the shit that's coming out of Trump's food hole, okay, so in his mouth. What the fuck is actually he's spewing, okay? What shit is he actually saying? They want you to really understand it, because they have the experience, they have the knowledge, okay? But the problem is that a lot of people, they just think that because you fucking peeps in a bumper sticker, they're the smartest kid in the block. That's not how it works. That's how they want you to believe that you're smart, but that's not how it works, okay? So let me give you back your power as Americans, or if you are brought to whatever acolyte or MAGA analog, that exists out there, because they are all over the place. Okay, this entire podcast has already explained a lot of these things in a lot of detail, and you're welcome to listen to it. Okay, it's actually put in a sequential order, so you can actually see how it actually builds up to the conversation that we're actually having on this episode. And this is for you. Okay, I already know the shit. I need you to understand it, so it doesn't happen to you. But me screaming just into a wall, it really doesn't do any good. All right, so that is the reality. Is where we at this point. So, but I need you to realize that Trump's decisions are indeed harming America, and that includes many MAGA people who are feeling the pain. And don't take my word for it. Okay, just go Google it. But do it, like really do it. It might not be hurting you today, but tomorrow, maybe the day after, or very soon, it's going to happen. Look at the testimonials. Trump's telling you, don't look at anything else. Do it. Just see it. You owe to yourself to give him the same scrutiny that you would be giving to anybody else. If he's correct, if he has nothing to hide, the math is going to add up, and he's going to be showing, okay, vindication, he's good to go, blah blah blah. If he's not, then now you know what is actually going on over here. Okay, so understand, okay, that the shit that he is doing, he's not being forthcoming. Okay, so if Trump is actually indeed under duress, meaning that somebody actually has some shit on him, and he is under some sort of I don't know, blackmail, whatever thing that you want to call it, or coercion, then he's not being forthcoming with you and with America. Because yeah, of course, it would be either embarrassing or you want to put him in a bad light or whatever, because he can never fucking accept responsibility for anything. Okay, but it's America who can actually save him and everybody else. Okay, if he is the president. And that is obviously bad. Okay, so if that is the case, okay, because that means that he chose himself over choosing the country. So if you choose yourself over choosing the country, then you have no business becoming a president or being in an office. Okay, that is the point. Okay, because when you are in an office of that type, that's why not everybody gets a chance to run for that, because it is a high stress job and you work for the American people, for all Americans, not for yourself. That's why you have to put all the shit in blind trust, and you have not to do any business and prevent any even the perception of conflicts of interest or any of that shit. Trump, he didn't give a shit about that in the first term. He's getting all these different loyalists to do exactly the same thing this time. Okay, so if he's doing all this shit wittingly, knowing that his policies are actually harming America and the rest of the USA as interest around the world, then that is treason. That's it. Okay, it's treason. It's ground for impeachment if he's doing that so wittingly. If he's not doing that wittingly, he's too stupid to do that, then he's incompetent. And that is not good either. So either way, this is not looking good for him. And if Kamala or Biden would be doing the same shit, yeah, you bet your ass that I would be telling you exactly the same things. It doesn't matter who is the person that is getting onto the office. It's about the presidency, not about the person that is sitting on the presidency. You understand? Okay. In sometimes, yeah, it's going to be mad. It's going to be like, I don't know, like if like your mom is starting to steal from you. Okay, you might love your mom, but at some point you're going to be like, oh, okay, what the hell? You might have to have that talk. You might need to understand. What is the situation? This is where we are at. Yes, America. This is where we are at right now. And really, the only way to get out of this quagmire is for either the GOP to grow a fucking spine and become a co-equal branch of government like they're supposed to be, and for the Supreme Court, who already gave him this fucking immunity, which is unprecedented, to actually start truly investigating all these allegations that are against Trump and really understanding, what is the situation and stop stonewalling it. Because they're supposed to be a co-equal branch of government. They are supposed to actually speak truth to power. Speak truth to power. That's what happens. Even, for his cabinet, for that, Trump, he had that on the previous administration. There would be people in his cabinet that they were actually putting safeguards as they were supposed to. And now he's putting a lot of loyalists. Why do you think is that? It's because the cabinet, okay, they support the president's agenda, but the president's agenda has to support America. And if it doesn't, in any way, it's actually harming America at large in some way, and not just benefiting a small group of cronies or whoever, that's actually pretty much taking advantage of the rest of the country. Then they are supposed to speak truth to power. Speak truth to power. That's what they're supposed to be doing. So they can actually serve the United States of America, okay? The cabinet is not a rubber stamp for the president. It's an extension of his knowledge and to be able to demonstrate if the president has any blind spots, because nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. That's why you need to be understanding, okay? So if there's any stonewall about getting reports or anything else that is about accountability, it's because they have something to hide. Duh. Yeah, obviously. If they're not showing to you and say like, no, just listen to me and don't look at the reports or don't do an investigation, don't have scrutiny, it's because they have something to hide. It's not fucking rocket science. It's really fucking simple. And if they are not wanting to release a report either for Trump or for any of his acolytes, it is because it's not favorable to them. Because if it would be favorable, you could be fucking sure that they're going to be plastering that shit and bragging about that on every corner of the world and show, oh yeah, this is what it is, blah, blah, blah. Let me give you a quick example. Why is Trump, for example, not showing the report about the medical report about when he got shot in the ear? If he got shot and that happened, okay, if that would be the case, why is he not actually showing it? Just share that with the group. I'm sure a lot of MAGA people are going to be even more enticed to be celebrating you for saying like, oh shit, look at that, your healing powers are so freaking magical whenever you fucking got hit with an AR-15 bullet. Yeah. What was now, huh? Or so if you get like hit, so yeah. Why don't you do it? It should be it should be something that it's elementary for us to be thinking. Okay, but if you're just taking anybody, not just Trump, but anybody else's whatever narrative at face value without actually doing any independent checking it out or holding it to scrutiny, then you're a fucking moron, man. Sorry. That's what's happening. They are going to be conning you. They're going to be taking advantage of you. Not just them, but anybody else who wants to exploit whatever other vulnerabilities that you have. So it's up to you to really start waking up and do whatever happens, okay? Because just don't be a naive moron. We all have blind spots, but the cure for ignorance is knowledge, and the knowledge actually exists. You just have to get out of your bubble and look for it. All right. And a lot of this shit, yeah, I know is unprecedented with Trump, and he's been already impeached twice, and he's likely to be probably the only person that's been impeached 3 times if the Congress people ever grow a spine. Okay, but he could very well be subject to the 25th Amendment and say, like, you know what? Sorry, buddy, you've been in office, it's not actually working, and they might actually have to, start like pulling him out. But that is the reality that we have to actually see. A lot of the shit that Trump is doing is unprecedented. It has never happened. We never had to be worried about somebody asking for immunity. No, we never had somebody who has this much baggage and this much such a high level of things that are very worrisome for anybody who's been in office. We've never seen that. But we're seeing that now. And it is our turn, if you are in the driver's seat, if you are alive right now, to not only pay attention about that, but you cannot just be another idiot, say like, yeah, hopefully somebody else is going to be paying attention. Well, guess what? Some people are paying attention. But then if you're not paying attention to the stuff that people are telling you, then it really doesn't matter in the end, because it's going to affect you as well. It is affecting you. That is the problem, all right? So, and maybe, we'll have to reset these elections again. And that would be the first time that we have to be doing. But is that what we'll have to be doing? Because he hasn't even taken office already. And there's a lot of the things that are incredibly worrisome. And I would like to know, where the fuck is the White House on all this? Okay. But, I've been talking about this thing for a very long time. So this playbook that we're seeing, it's kind of new to the USA, but it's very well known abroad. And that's what I wrote in my books, Authoritarianism and Propaganda, the Puppet Master Tools, and Woke and Proud, The Charlatan's Inconvenience. They're both nonfiction, thought-provoking historical analysis of how propaganda has been taking a foothold over the world, and how can we stop them from doing that? Because it takes the people. It is a team effort, right? That's how it works, all right? It's a team effort. And yes, I've been talking about this thing for a long time as well in my articles. If you go to my website, www.halflifecrisis.com, you go to the article section, you're going to be seeing a whole bunch of articles that have been written, and there's a timestamp and a little bit of a two-liner thing so you can actually understand what it is about. And just look at all the things that normally the news cycle and all the clickbait actually tends to forget, and people start forgetting something that happened. Okay, so do yourself a favor and look at that, because it's going to help you understand this in more context. And if that is too much, I have another website, www.infoincontext.com, and that teaches you how to identify and how to defeat all this authoritarian propaganda that we're seeing, because that is happening, and that is affecting us. That is affecting us all. And the only way that we can move forward from that is if we start working together. All right. So in the next episode, you have to realize that nobody's coming to save us, sadly. No, nobody's coming to save us. Not like it or not. Not the White House, not the U.S. government, not the media, not the military. Nobody's coming to save us. And it is happening already. It's kind of like a lot of them are MIA, and it's heartbreaking, but that begs the question, what are we going to be doing? So that's what we're going to be talking about, okay? So Trump has not gotten into power yet, okay? He hasn't gotten into power yet as getting into the office yet, but he's already fucking up the USA in so many different ways at the geopolitical level that is freaking insane. And again, what the fuck is the White House doing about this? Well, I'm going to give you the answer. Not enough. Not nearly enough. They're supposed to be doing a lot more. And I'm intending to actually fucking send another episode to them. It's like, hey, what the fuck? Writing to them. Send a copy of this episode. Like, what the fuck are you going to be doing, man? Because we don't have the time. We're already behind the 8 ball. And Trump, he keeps acting as though he's subordinate to a foreign power, and our institutions are just going along with it. Like starting with this Doge thing, this fucking... office or department that he's creating with Elon Musk and Ramaswamy, and that is a new agency that's being created out of fucking Trump's imagination, pulling out of his ass and putting people who have conflict of interest to run this thing. And even though that would need congressional approval, it's like an appropriation. It's just like kind of like say like, oh yeah, it's gonna happen, and it's just like moving. It's like, what the fuck? How the fuck is that? We're just like rubber stamping shit like that. There has to be some pushback. Why is there no more fucking pushback to really understand what is actually going on with that? All right, so warm up to the fact, if you're MAGA Trump, that he wanted your vote. Okay, so warm up to that fact. All right, he wanted your vote and he got it. Putin wanted Trump's clout and he got it. And if you don't want to also be Putin's puppet because you are an American, then you can either allow him to take over your life by giving him permission, or you can deny him that. Well, spoiler alert. MAGA, you are already giving him permission. You're already giving Putin permission to do anything else. So you already gave him the vote. That's what he wanted to do. And that's why they didn't want you to pay attention to all the other information that existed and you just listen to the shit that he's saying. Yeah, Trump already said that he's going to make shit more expensive to you. Yeah, and you voted for that? Yeah, understand, all right? So, but the thing is that we all together, the USA, we still have the power to end all this craziness. And the way that you want to believe it, it doesn't matter. Okay, what you believe in your head is what you can do. Okay, but what you have, what you have in your head doesn't necessarily mean that is the reality. Okay, but this is what you have. You have a choice, but they want you to believe that you don't have a choice. But you do have a choice. You have a choice to do the right thing. So don't let the adversarial forces win, because how do you do it? Okay, so it's not through violence. Okay, so I'm not advocating for violence. All right. But you just negate them power. An authoritarian is only as powerful as their followers. And how they do it? I told you at the beginning of this episode. They hijack your faith and your flag. Okay, so your faith and our flag. That's how they do it. Okay, so they try to make them believe that they are working for you. They don't. Okay, so don't condone it. That is the first step. And yes, we're going to be talking a little bit more about that, about how to regain your power in the next episode. Until the next time, guys, see you later. Take care. Bye.